Welcome to Love Where You Live, Boulder County. This is a podcast where we have conversations about why it's so awesome to live in Boulder County. Sometimes we talk about the less awesome, sometimes the more awesome. Anyway, today I'm very happy to bring you a guest that maybe perhaps some of you don't know, but it's a guy that I've known for well past 45 years. This is a guy who just recently celebrated his 50th birthday. He's quite old. I lead with that because I want you guys to know when you listen to this sense of humor that comes across that he was raised in the 80s Am I right?
Yeah, from Generation X.
From Generation X. 1974, born February 15th, Albuquerque, New Mexico. This is a childhood friend of mine, and you're probably wondering, why is a childhood friend from Albuquerque, New Mexico coming onto this podcast? Well, the reason I brought Ryan Chreist here today is because currently, and I had to Google this because I never really knew this, elusive stat, he's the Assistant Vice Chancellor, Alumni and Constituent Engagement, is that correct?
That is
correct. As well
correct.
as the Executive Director of the CU Alumni Association.
That is correct.
Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, it's my pleasure. You know, when one of your oldest friends calls and says, "Hey, I need you to do something that you don't normally do," what's the first thing you say? Of course.
Of course, yeah. That could be using the chainsaw in the backyard, advising me on my chicken coop. These are all things you're going to do in the next couple of weeks, or come on a podcast.
Anytime.
So, no, it's a treat for me. And so a little bit first, I give the intro. Ryan is a guy I grew up with. And so I'll give you this is how I sort of lead. I met Ryan when we were each 5 years old, and he was in the afternoon kindergarten, I think, and I was in the morning kindergarten at Bandelier Elementary School. But we went from that. This is very cool. We met in kindergarten at 5 years old, and then we went to school together continuously all the way through high school.
We did. And actually, I'm impressed that your memory still works that well since you're so much older than I am.
That's a good dig. I've got at least, 3-4 months on you?
I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is back to October?
That's it. The math is tough at this advanced stage in life. But yeah, good point. We met young and the memory is still very strong. We went to school together, which is unique that we did that. And then at that point, you left for Colorado and I left for Texas. So we both left New Mexico and you chose CU. And the reason that I bring that up is because it tells me that you've been here for a long time.
Been here a long time. And actually, I do like to rub that in that I was the one who found it first.
Yeah.
So you had to come and follow.
That's true.
It took you a while to get here. But for me, yeah, I came out of Albuquerque and, proud Highland High School graduate. The Hornets, go Hornets.
Go Hornets.
And chose to come to the University of Colorado Boulder for my undergraduate degree, studying kinesiology, and which, by the way, doesn't exist anymore. And that's how old we are.
Wait, kinesiology just evaporated, or the degree doesn't exist?
Well, that's a good point. It's not a major that's available at the university anymore. Now it's integrative physiology. That's so cool. Very similar stuff. But so I made the leap from New Mexico up here to Colorado. And, the great thing is, not to harp on our relationship here, but, being able to go down and, you're in Texas, I'm in Colorado, we'd reconnect in New Mexico, back and forth. And here we are, years later, and you finally wised up and moved up here.
Fine. We're going to cut to the spoilers, the spoiler later, that how long it took me to don the Buffs merch. But anyway, let me say this. So you're totally right. You came here. I remember we both kind of visited Austin together, had a fun time down there. I chose to go to school there, and I had enrolled here, or not enrolled. I had applied here, and so the question is, you came right up. What was it that made you come up here? First thing that drew you into CU and to Boulder?
It's a really good question. I think, growing up in New Mexico, the outdoor atmosphere was always really important. We'd go biking, we'd go hiking. It was camping, it was being outside. And I think I also grew up as a big skier, and, you skied as well. And we spent some time up in Taos, et cetera. But being able to be in an environment where you knew the mountains were literally in your back door was a big draw for sure. And Boulder, once you visit the town, it's hard not to come back. I mean, it's just it's a great spot, and to go to college here, and the campus is beautiful, and UT Austin's great as well. But it's one of those. It just felt right. Just felt like the place where you wanted to be.
Okay, I love that. And so you rolled over that hill, right, into Boulder Valley for the first time, probably a little recruiting trip, but really the first time you roll in with all the bags packed, your folks are driving you in, I'm guessing. What was it like? First impressions. Here's my new home.
It's a great question, and still today, we did some drone shots for some promotional stuff to remind our alumni why this place is amazing. And you know what we showed? The very first thing is rolling and over the hill, coming in on 36. The drive from Denver to Boulder looks totally different than it did, in the early 90s. It's filled in and there's, lots of houses, lots of growth. But that last hill, as you come over on 36 and come over the mesa and you see the city down below you, that looks still pretty much the same. And it gets you every time. I think it's one of those things like, it's this valley that it has the mountains as the backdrop. And how many places do you have a vista like that? And one that you get as your first impression. A lot of times you sneak up on a city, you're seeing it from far away. You can't see Boulder until you come over that hill, and then there it is in all its grandeur.
Yeah, pretty magical. You've described it really well, and I see why you guys use that drone shot. So you come in, you roll in that beauty, and you're 18 years old, and you roll up, CU Boulder, probably, pretty big school, pretty big change for you from Albuquerque. But what were the highlights?
Well,
I mean, you don't have to, look, this is a family show. So
yeah, exactly. I would say this, that to say it's not like where we grew up is, and this is a complete and total understatement. Boulder is about as polar opposite as the part of town, at least we grew up in Albuquerque. But I think, as an 18-year-old coming into college, I think everybody goes through that big transition, right? It's not only are you leaving this place that you grew up with, the only place maybe you knew or the place you've known for a while, and you're stepping into a new environment. And the first thing that you're thinking is, how am I going to find my spot here? Where is my place? And I think one of the great things about CU, and I'll do a little, promotion of the place where I work, is they really work hard on making that adjustment as easy as possible for students. So coming in as a freshman, you have to live on campus. You're living with people largely from all over the world. And it makes that transition easier because everybody's doing the same thing. And so I think the beauty of it was the transition felt pretty seamless.
Awesome.
For me. Now I can't say for everybody, but coming from New Mexico, a west, southwest kind of feel, the environment was different, but it wasn't shockingly different. I wasn't coming from the ocean. I wasn't coming from Florida. We're coming from a similar climate.
Yep.
But the adjustment was pretty good. I can't say that I really was homesick. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Wow. Well said. Okay. And a little sales pitch if you're interested in, if your kids are getting ready to school. No, that's good. What about if you can remember back, maybe just as a kid and being here in school, outside of class, outside of CU, what were your favorite 2 or 3 things about the area, Boulder County?
Well, so my roommate was from Idaho. He was from Ketchum, Idaho.
Okay.
And he was on the ski team at CU, which long tradition of national championships, et cetera. Really great guy. The very first thing I did on the outdoors front as I moved into my dorm, he said, let's go. There's a mountain bike ride I want to go do. Do you want to come? Well, Michael, excuse me. You remember that we didn't have fancy mountain bikes,
no.
Right? I mean, it wasn't.
No suspension.
No.
And
I said, sure, that sounds great. Well, he wanted to go to Walker Ranch, which is at the very top, all the way up. And of course, I didn't know what I was doing. We did the Super Walker, which is...
So tell us, that's going up. So folks, that's going from town, up baseline, up Flagstaff Mountain. The average gradient, probably 10% average, but that means you're well above that for a lot of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This was first week of
First
school.
week. Welcome. Yep. You're riding uphill.
Yep. Welcome. It beat the heck out of us, right?
Strangely.
Well, he was probably fine. We rode all the way up. We did Walker Ranch, and then we rode down. And I'll admit this to you now. I had a hard time walking for a little bit.
About a week and a half.
For 2 reasons. One, my muscles were sore, and 2, a little bit of saddle soreness going on.
Hadn't been on a bike
Yeah.
Wow. So your intro is Super Flag or Super Walker. Yeah. Oh
Yep.
my word. Great stuff.
I don't know if I could do that today. I'll be honest.
Yeah. I don't know that most people can do that. It is a tough ride. So, oh my gosh, that's awesome. So that's a good impression or bad? That's a welcome to Boulder. I mean, that's,
You've ridden up
Yeah.
Flagstaff numerous times, right? I mean, and back in the early 90s, there wasn't nearly as much traffic.
okay.
So you didn't have to contend with the cars as much.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful ride, and you get viewpoints the whole way up.
Incredible.
The grade is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then once you get over the top and you start going down to where you get into the start of Walker, it's like all of a sudden it opens up and it's this beautiful, you're up in the mountains.
Yeah.
And then that ride is one of the best around for sure.
Walker Ranch, super fun little mountain bike. And it's not easy there either. So you've done this hard ride to go do a hard ride.
It was painful.
Okay. So you're in the rooming with the ski guy. Tell me about this. You mentioned before you came up here. When was the first time you went skiing and where'd you go?
That's a really good question. I was pretty lucky. I ended up meeting a couple Coloradans that had places up in the hills.
Gotcha.
And so a lot of people would say, oh, Eldora, in the, gosh, what's it been 30 years that I've been here?
Yeah.
I've skied Eldora twice.
Twice in oh my word.
30 years. No, 3 times. Sorry, 3 times. I went up with Tyler, but so it really was Copper, I think was the first place.
Wow.
And that's still my primary spot.
That's
where I like to go. But I think, having skiing close was always a draw. And the ironic thing was Eldora is a great little mountain, but it was just, I don't know why it just didn't happen for me.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Fair enough. I think that's, and Eldora, I was actually just noticing this because I have an Eldora sweatshirt, 1962, founded in 1962, been the local hill. We go there all the time. And I think that it's like a 45-minute drive from my house, which is why, and my kids are still young enough to where if we get up there and you do 2 runs, you haven't invested a lot of time. But that's.
Well, Tyler, my son, is on the Boulder Valley School District ski team.
Oh, that's cool.
And so that's where they train. So here he's in high school down in Louisville. He goes to a school in Louisville, and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and Saturday, they're up training. And they can do it and still go to school. That's how close it is.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's pretty cool.
And so imagine that, like we're, having a ski team in high school. Super cool. So we'll just quickly stay there. You have 2 kids, beautiful wife, Liz, and these 2 wonderful children. I've watched them since they were little. You've done a fantastic job raising them, Sarah and Tyler. So they go to school in Boulder Valley.
They do.
That's unique. They didn't do like what we did, where you go to the same school. What's that like, raising 2 kids in high school?
It's been a journey, as I think every parent would say it is. But our kids ended up at 2 different high schools, and they're actually the rival high schools, and for different reasons. Okay. So not they like each other. I think they love each other. Do they like each other? It depends on the day, right? But they are. So one of them goes to Centaurus and one goes to Monarch, and those are rival high schools. And they chose those for different reasons. Tyler chose Monarch because of football and because of sports primarily, and his friend group. And Sarah, does other things over at Centaurus, cheer and other things. And so it's been an interesting experience having kids in 2 different schools. It really makes you feel like you're split between 2 communities. So unlike what, you and I grew up with, where your siblings go to the same schools you go to. Yeah. This just was in Boulder County. You have a choice, which is very unusual. We didn't have that growing up. You can open enroll to any of the high schools. And middle schools, and I think even elementary schools, if there's space. And so they make it so students can move around based upon what maybe their interests are. And so that was just a unique experience for us. I never expected that to happen.
Yes. Fantastic. And I'm glad you brought that up, because we talk about it generally that Boulder Valley has great schools, overall the high quality of education you can get at a public school, but you just nailed it and shared with everyone. Because in my world, selling real estate, it is a big question. Where can I get to be by the best schools? If I buy a house here coming from out of town, we always say, hey, you know what? It's your call. So that's pretty unique.
Well, it is. And actually, as somebody, I used to do admissions work at CU for years, and, there's not a bad school in Boulder County. I mean, that's one of the amazing things about this place, is that no matter which school you end up with, each one of them is very highly regarded. by universities, and I'm speaking from a high school perspective, and they all have their own kind of little thing that really draws a unique population. So, Centaurus has a pre-engineering program, right? For example. And then you'll have an IB program, and Monarch has, a AP program. And so there's different reasons why students may choose. And then the other thing that's really unique, like Tyler being on the ski team, that's a Boulder, it's actually out of Nederland High School.
Oh, right.
But anybody who's in Boulder Valley School District can participate through Nederland High School. And so, if your school doesn't have the sport, you can go to another school to be able to do that, which is really cool.
That's super cool. Yeah. So, oh man, I didn't realize that specifically. I'd heard Nederland has that. That's cool. So if you want the sport, you don't happen to go to the right school, you just go somewhere else.
Yeah. Like Tyler plays lacrosse and Monarch has lacrosse, but if he was at Centaurus, he could go to Monarch
to play.
And,
fantastic.
And there's a lot of students who do that. And then all of a sudden you have friend groups that are mixing too, which is great. You know, you get to know more kids in different parts of the area.
That's neat. And I guess I shouldn't slight St. Vrain Valley School District as well. Also a good school district. You talked about Boulder County. St. Vrain covers sort of Lyons and Longmont, Niwot as well. So I think that, would you say the same for all of the Boulder County, that school district as well, hitting high marks?
Absolutely. I mean, it's going back again to college admissions. These schools really prepare students well.
Great.
And so, you probably notice there's not a huge private school industry, so to speak, here in the Boulder Valley because you don't need it. The public schools really are very, very strong.
That's great. That's great. And so, I appreciate you sharing that, and it's cool to hear the perspective from a college. And so I want to go to that a little bit. My memory, I came and spent a summer with you, and I'll tie myself in. I did finally late to the game, as you mentioned. I was in Austin for a number of years and came up here, and I remember driving over, and you just graduated. You're about to graduate.
I just graduated. I think it was the summer after graduation.
That sounds right. So just graduated, and a couple friends, we grew up with, Fonz and me, we drive over the hill, and I'm faced with that view going like, holy smokes, this is incredible. This is where I'm going to spend a summer. I roll down into town, stay with you for a summer. And I think I remember correctly, you were working at you were doing catering at CU, right?
Yeah.
At the UMC, right?
I was a manager there. Yeah.
Okay. So my point is, you started working for CU when you were a student.
Well, yeah,
somewhat.
I worked all through college in various jobs.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated, I actually didn't stay. I didn't get a job at CU. I actually left. I was a wildland firefighter for a bit, and then decided to spend every dollar that I ever had and a bunch more by going to Europe and kind of doing a little of the backpacking thing.
Yes.
And then, months after that, then I ended up making my way back to Boulder because I had to get back here. Yeah. That's just how it felt. It was, I needed to get back to a place that I was very comfortable and really enjoyed. And so applied for a bunch of jobs, and I ended up getting a job in admissions. And so I ended up traveling all over the world eventually, recruiting for the university, a place that I believe in and a place that I feel very strongly about. And it allowed me to stay in Boulder. I mean, at that time, there wasn't as much industry as there is now here.
Yeah. That's wow. Okay. So, that's great to hear the accurate story, because I always tell people, well, he started working there and never left, and you just progressed through, which to some extent you have. You did have a break.
Close, yeah.
Yeah. And you got to see the world, and this was still what drew you back. It would be we brought this up on, with Amanda and I talk about Chief Niwot, right? And, and so is this a real deal here, this curse, this prophecy?
It's interesting that you bring that up. It came up just the other day. I was talking to somebody who had left for 10 years and then they just came back, and they mentioned it. They said, well, I think the Chief Niwot curse or blessing, however you want to look at it, dragged me back here. Yeah. And they were so happy to be here. But, that is, who knows?
It's a real deal.
Maybe
it's a real
that is
deal.
a real thing.
Yeah. I mean, I spent the summer here, and I went back to Austin, and 4 or 5 years later is when I finally moved here, and it was always on my brain. So I think there's something there. Would it be wrong for me to say something like this? Wherever you roam, CU is your home. Is that how it goes? Huh?
It's pretty close. Yeah. I mean, we've used various versions of that. Nice job.
Thank you.
I do like that. See, and CU rubs off on you. I mean, I think, just if I might for a second, I would say that part of what makes Boulder in this area incredible, and this is, I understand I'm coming from a biased place with working at the university and being a graduate, is it is a university town.
Yes.
And so I think that university town really brings both companies, industries, tourism, and I think it really helps keep the vibrancy, if that's a word, making this place vibrant. Otherwise, it could be just like any other town nestled against the mountains, but you wouldn't have, world-class restaurants. You wouldn't have incredible music and cultural opportunities. You wouldn't have a lot of these amazing things that come along with Boulder if it weren't for the university.
I think you're spot on, and I'm glad you went there. And since you went there, because you brought up vibrancy, CU, tourism, naturally, my brain goes directly to Coach Prime. So, okay, you don't have to weigh in on this, but this guy, you've been trying to make me be a CU fan for decades.
I've been trying, and now you're finally wising up.
And then I finally bought a sweatshirt that says Coach Prime, go Buffs.
Yeah.
So no, but how cool is that? That also, I mean, is it cool? That's a good question. Is it cool or not cool for a lifelong true fan? Because now you have bandwagon people like me.
Oh,
is it amazing? Is it good? Bad?
It's incredible. There's always room on the bandwagon.
Okay.
I mean, it's, one of the great things about something like college sports, right, is that if you get people that are excited about supporting something, you're supporting the student athlete. Is really what it's about.
That's a good point.
And so, the more people that come on board, the more people that help support the program, I think what it does is it helps our student athletes. And those student athletes are, they're students and they're athletes.
Yep.
And so you're helping those students. And I think having Coach Prime here has been incredible for our alumni base. It's been incredible for visibility. I mean, some of the things that are out there is, in 1 year, we have gone up 1,000% in merchandise sales.
That's amazing.
So, and that's because of visibility.
Yeah.
With somebody like Coach Prime, and people like the message he's giving. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people like the message he's giving. His personality, his history, what he's done, his competitiveness, and so I think that draws a whole different set of folks to the university, to Boulder. We have people visiting Boulder that have never been to Colorado.
Right.
But they're visiting now to see Coach Prime.
Yeah.
I mean, we were on 2 of the biggest national college game day shows on the same day. First time that's ever happened.
Yeah. I was in the background because I was, after dropping my kids off, I was driving through campus and I stopped and tried to get on the, I was that guy.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see. It was so cool. I did watch. It was so cool to see that out there on that field, and just the energy that has it's palpable. It's notable. It's incredible.
Well, I'll tell you that it's more than just here in Colorado. Yeah. So, part of our role is we do a pregame event at every away game for our community. So for any CU fan, doesn't matter if you went there or not, it's free. It's open to anybody. And so we were at UCLA and we had over 3,000 people join. And there were people flying from the East Coast, from the South, that are wearing full CU gear, but they had no connection to the university.
That's so cool.
And they're buying merchandise, they're attending the games, they're there.
That's fantastic.
It's a community. Bring it on. Anybody.
Yeah, bring it. Okay, good. Awesome. Great answer. I love that.
You're welcome.
And I do have to fight my son now for the hat. You gave me a ball cap a couple of years ago, and we wear it. We spar for that. He likes it too. So, good stuff. Now, just as you mentioned, I wanted to talk a lot about CU, which we've done, but that's not all you do. Right. You've been for a long time now, and I don't know, probably 20 years. I mean, you've been a firefighter for Louisville. You're an EMT.
Yep.
You're a firefighter.
That's
Louisville.
Correct.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, as I said, after I graduated college, I went into wildland. So I was fighting wildland fires on the western slope of Colorado, which, by the way, is, high-speed gardening. It's super hard.
High-speed gardening sounds difficult.
It's a very, met some of the most amazing people and some incredible experiences, but I really fell in love with the fire service. After 9/11, I wanted to do something like a lot of people.
Yeah.
That was a pretty significant time in our lives. And so I was driving by the Louisville Station 2 on via Appia, and there was a big sign outside that said, "We need people." It was 100% volunteer at the time.
Wow.
And so I went in and applied, and it actually just passed 20 years.
Dang.
Not too long ago. So it's been a long career there, and I've really enjoyed it. But it's also allowed me to do some really neat stuff in Boulder County that you never would have expected. It's watching the city grow and how houses are interfacing with urban wildland interface, and
Yes.
with open space. We had those horrible fires a few years ago, which really impacted our communities, and watching the community come together,
Yep.
was really rewarding.
Yeah, you see the good and the bad of that. I remember talking to you after that, the Marshall fires, over 1,000 homes burned. Marshall, Louisville, Superior. You lived in Louisville. You now live very close. But what was that like? I mean, you're seeing your places, your peers, your neighbors, your friends, your family. Some of the firefighters, probably family, all that stuff. You're in the midst of that. You're kicking down fences and helping that thing. Tell us about that a little.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, it's, when you see fires like that happen various places, like Paradise in California, horrible situation,
Yeah.
a lot of deaths, a lot of destruction. All the elements seem to line up in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that day was a pretty traumatic day for our community. And I think for those of us that were fighting the fire, it was, people's houses that you knew.
Yeah.
You live in that community, and you're trying to save that house of that person that you've known for years, and you can't do anything. I mean, the winds are 100 miles an hour. Things are blowing over your head. You're doing everything you can. There's nothing you can do. So it was traumatic in that regard, I would say, but it was also, there was 2 lives lost, which is never a good thing, but only 2. We were pretty lucky.
Pretty amazing, that many structures and that few lives. That is, you're right. It's horrible to lose anyone, but you were in the midst, you were doing that. And then now you've watched it rebuild. You mentioned it, the strength of the community. Any sort of highlights that you would just share that great story? Yeah.
So, I think all the communities, Louisville and Superior were hit pretty hard.
Yep.
Both of those communities lost, I think, over 500 homes, something like that.
That's right.
And so I think that, a huge swath of the community was gone.
Yeah.
And those families were gone.
Yeah.
And so, for a while, that land was empty. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of mitigation going on, and some really hard scenes to drive by every day. Felt very empty. And then the houses started springing up.
Yeah.
And it brought new life. It brought new excitement. And I think one of the things that's been great to see is that the way they designed that community, the replacements, at least I'm speaking about Louisville because that's the one I'm most familiar with,
right,
is they really did a good job of trying to bring back the sense of community and the neighborhood feel, and also the uniqueness of not all the homes are the same. They're a little bit different. It provides a little character, and it's prime real estate. So
it is,
there's a lot of folks that I think, unfortunately they couldn't stay. They had to sell their land. But others have moved in, a lot of families, bringing a lot of life back to the community. That's
awesome. Great perspective. And I couldn't agree more. It was really hard to drive through there, almost like a movie set. And then now back in, 21, I guess that was the beginning of 22. And now where we are is really uplifting. Just seeing that it's like flowers springing up in springtime. It really is a cool scene. I echo that. So thank you for sharing. And then, okay, here's a couple things we talked about. I just want to go right to, you moved here, you talked about some highlights. Let's talk about a little bit of the change, maybe some positive or negative changes you've seen. Anything that you would highlight in Boulder County, you'd say, this is something to watch out for. If you're coming here, we've painted a pretty good picture. What are some things to sidestep or be aware of?
Yeah, it's interesting. Every community has its positives and negatives, right? And I think Boulder, it's always rated as one of the best places to live. It's, most friendly for bikes, best restaurants, you can go down the list, right? Yep. It is an amazing place to be. I think cost of living has made it very hard for folks. And, when it's a desirable place and there's limited inventory, I mean, you being in real estate, you understand this, it just drives the prices through the roof. And so I think for a lot of folks, and I can speak to this, from when I hire people from outside to come here, we have a real challenge because our salaries don't match the cost of living.
Yeah.
And so that creates a dynamic that makes it really hard for folks. And so I think the reality for a lot of people is they want to be here, but it's hard to be here.
It's difficult.
It is. And I think that, the city and the cities, Boulder County in general, is really grappling with this, and they're trying to figure out how can we create more inventory or how can we create more opportunity. at different income levels, at different cost levels. And I know it's a big topic. I don't think anybody has the perfect answer yet, but we are seeing some attempts at this in various communities around and in Boulder. I would like to see, that that problem be addressed a little bit more aggressively, I think, because it could bring more people here. And the university's even looking at it, and how can we contribute to helping to provide more opportunity for a variety of people in socioeconomic areas, different areas, to be able to survive in Boulder. So the university is looking at different housing options and subsidizing things and trying to create some new spaces.
I think you're spot on. I appreciate hearing the perspective, and I do think that's a big drawback. And you mentioned something. I did recently read that CU is attempting to do that, to provide, create, and establish housing that faculty and staff can live in and can be close. So you're not saying, hey, I have this budget, I've got to be in a great community, but 30 minutes away or 45 minutes away.
It hurts on the commute too. I mean, getting into Boulder is challenging,
it's
right?
Not easy. Yeah.
And so, and there's lots of talk about trains and public transportation and some of those needs. And I think we have a really, really good bus system,
yes,
which is fabulous. But there is a need to get more people from Denver and East Boulder and past, towards I-25 in the east,
correct,
to Boulder in a more efficient way. And so that's where a lot of my staff live, or,
right,
on the eastern part of the county or further, because of the cost. And so to have more efficient ways to come in would be great. But the university is looking at some good options.
I like it. I do. And I think of young Ryan Chreist riding up to Walker Ranch. If more people could ride like that, those young legs would power you from the Carbon Valley of east of 25 all the way in. Let's shift gears to some fun stuff here real quick. This has all been fun for me, but I'll ask you just a couple of quickies. So you could just come up with this. What's your favorite give us your favorite restaurant people need to go to. And the last time I got 4 answers on this question. So you give me as many as you want, but what favorite restaurant people have to go to?
Boy, that's a tough one. I'll divide it up into a couple of categories. If that works. So I think the go-to when you look at great food, good atmosphere, not excessively expensive, Santos.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
okay. Tell us where that is.
That's North Boulder.
Yes.
So it is right off of Broadway.
That's
and the chef, and I will there's a couple things I have to say about the chef. Number one, a New Mexico root.
That's right.
So it has kind of a Southwestern feel, and you can get legit hot green chili there.
That is correct.
Which is important. He's also a CU grad.
Oh, Chef Hosea. Yeah.
Yes.
He's from CU and New Mexico.
And, his other restaurant, Black Belly, is obviously, that's a fabulous spot, a little bit higher price point.
Yep.
Absolutely delicious. It's a great one. I think on the more affordable side, let's just say, there's 2 spots. One would be the Village Coffee Shop. And, if you want the greasy spoon breakfast, you're not going to beat it. And then, this is an iconic landmark. A lot of people don't think of it for food. The Dark Horse.
Oh, man. Okay.
So Dark Horse, before a basketball game or Friday night out, you can get a great burger, in the old basket that it comes in with fries.
Okay.
And the place is iconic.
Okay. Anytime I need a recommendation or a place to go, I ask Ryan. And so you've got Dark Horse, you've got Santo, you've got the Village, excuse me, Mr. Microphone. And then you've got, I think you added Black Belly in there. So great tips.
I did add Black Belly in there. And I think, Pearl Street has a ton of great options, which is nice too. I tend to stay on the outskirts a little bit more.
I like that.
You and I both are big fans of Pika's, for that kind of quick thing on the east part of town.
You can hit the Louisville, or you can hit the Arapahoe. I might've been there last night, at
Just
the one
maybe.
Arapahoe with my son. Okay. Favorite do you get coffee out? Where would you go for a cup of coffee? People need to know. It could be anywhere in the county.
It's a good question. That's a harder one for me.
Don't say Dunkin'.
No, that's too far north for me.
Okay.
I'm a make it myself kind of coffee guy. So
will you please share your address then so we can go over there for a cup of coffee?
But you'll appreciate this. So
I will.
What I keep in stock is Pinon coffee.
Oh, right on. In the red bag.
Yep. Straight out of New Mexico. they actually do little K-cups now.
Look, oh, I did
Yep.
not know that. Yeah,
Yep.
I do dig it. El piñón. That's a pine nut for those of you that aren't from New
That's
Mexico.
right.
Pine nut, we call them piñones. That almost sounded like I said a bad word.
Yep.
Either way, I'll say this. Okay, this will just be the kind of final category. You've given us restaurants. What in your mind, because we're an outdoor tribe here, a lot of us, you talked about it, you were drawn in, you grew up in the mountains. What's your favorite either outdoor hike or activity or trail or ski or anything, your favorite outdoor activity for Boulder County, or you can access it from here?
You know, that's a good one as well. And there's probably multiple categories in this space as well.
For sure.
You know, I mentioned Walker.
Mhm.
You know, from a mountain bike, if you're into mountain biking, around here, Walker Ranch is, I would say, reigns supreme. Batasso is a nice little hidden gem as well for mountain biking, although not so hidden anymore.
Yeah.
You know, with hiking, I think, you know, it's interesting. So years ago, Marshall Mesa used to be my go-to because nobody was over there. Now there's bikers there. There didn't used to be, which is fine. And it's just kind of an interesting slice of history there, the coal mines that are there. And
Right.
there's, you can actually learn about them as you walk around. Beautiful views of the Flatirons.
Some of the best.
Yeah. And it's on the south part. So I really like that. I think El Dorado Canyon, from a kind of a spot that a lot of Boulder people forget about,
Totally.
is you can go up and watch the climbers, and you got the river coming through there. Those are all, you know, probably my go-tos. I think you can't go wrong with the iconic Flatirons, you know,
Yes.
hikes. And
Yes.
there's so many little hidden spots up there.
There are.
You know, you get up to Mallory Cave, you can get, you know, to various places like the Arch, some really cool spots.
Very cool spots. You heard it here first from Ryan Chreist. He's got all the tips. He's been here for 32 years, going on 32 more, I'm sure. And great to have you at a wonderful conversation about Boulder County, what you love about it, and some of the things you're not too fond of. So thanks for joining me, Ryan. It's great to see you.
Hey, it's great to see you, Michael. And thank you for inviting me on, and really appreciate it. I love talking about this place. Obviously, I'm super passionate about it, and it's a big part of my life and my family's life. And having somebody I've known longer than almost my own family members here is an extra bonus as well.
That's right. That's right. We're chosen family. So great stuff. And I will say thank you for your time. Thanks for being here. And we will encourage you before the next episode to go out there and do something that you love.